Hi everybody, this video and the videos which follow talk about the new artificial intelligence software that has been developed by ChatGPT. This is it here. What I'm going to do is show you how effective it is in helping, in inverted commas, students do assessments and to answer exam questions. So let's see how it goes with our test run. First, let's try a multiple choice question. So I'll put in this multiple choice question here. If the incoming elasticity of demand for good is negative, then the good is, well, it's an inferior good. So, okay, so it's got that right. Let's try another one. Imagine a student is answering an exam. So got that one correct as well. Let's give it another one where we're referring to a model. So does the ChatGPT know about the model? Yes, it can give a correct answer to that question as well. So it's pretty good with multiple choice questions. Let's give it a kind of a standard microeconomic question that you might find in any exam. Describe the key features of an oligopoly market structure. Give 4 examples of oligopolistic industries in Australia. Justify your examples. Okay, so now it's going through the key features of an oligopolistic structure. So that's roughly right. And then it gives some examples, and these are Australian examples. So supermarkets, banking, telecommunications, pharmaceuticals. Okay, so it has now written a pretty good short answer to a standard exam question. Should note that this would not be picked up by Turnitin because it's necessarily wouldn't be picked up because it's formulating an original answer to the question. It's its own unique answer. Obviously, if other students were to submit this pretty much the same answer into Turnitin, then it will be picked up in terms of similarity. But you could always change it a bit, say rephrase this answer. Let's see what it does. Okay, so it's now writing the answer again, but rephrasing it. You can see it doesn't have the same form as the previous one did. But it's a bit different. It's obviously condensed it here. We could ask it to please elaborate. I don't know why I said please. Please elaborate on this text, and then I'm going to take this and put it in here and see if it can do that. Okay, so it's done that now. So this is now a quite different answer to the one that was given here. So we can say that now the student has written a different kind of an answer to the first student that put in this answer here, so Turnitin wouldn't pick up similarities. Well, not high similarity levels anyway. Let's try for a more difficult short answer question and see how it goes. Let's ask a question, short answer question about parking meters. So less than a century ago it was possible to park cars anywhere in the street in the city centre without paying a fee. By contrast, today parking meters are the norm in the city centres. Using the concepts of supply and demand, explain why this change came about. All right, let's see if the artificial intelligence can come up with a decent answer. Okay, so it's actually provided a pretty good answer to that question. Um, let's push it a little bit and see if it really knows what it's talking about. Let's ask, given the above answer, is the introduction of parking meters Pareto superior to not having parking meters? Okay, so there it's giving a good answer because it's hedging its bets. It's saying it depends on the specific context and the preferences of different individuals involved. Then goes on to elaborate a bit. So the answer that's giving is actually a pretty nuanced kind of an answer to that question. Let's throw it a little bit of a curveball, and this would be a curveball for the students as well. So let's say, is there a solution to the parking congestion that's based on the Coase theorem? So rather than using parking meters, let's see if the artificial intelligence can help. Okay, so it's actually formulating a pretty good answer, actually. If this were in an exam, I'd be quite happy with this kind of an answer by a student. And it goes on to say, oh, there's weaknesses as well. It's not without its issues and challenges. So that's a pretty good answer. Let's try and push it even further and follow up on that and ask, could the application of the Coase theorem to parking congestion involve ethical complications? So that's a pretty good answer to that question. Let's try a non-standard short answer question where we can ask them to reflect on a particular puzzle here, where we've got, this is for basically for an answer about behavioral economics in part. So we've got two questions referring to an apple where the maximum they're willing to pay for an apple in a survey, people say $2. And the minimum compensation they would accept for the loss of that very apple, in the survey they say $5. So are the people answering this survey thinking rationally from a neoclassical economist perspective? No. Why? And how might a behavioural economist explain the differences in the responses to the survey? So it could be seen as indicating that people are answering the survey are not thinking rationally, so it's giving the right answer there. And then it gives an explanation for why that is. So and then goes on to say, however, from a behavioural perspective, this can be explained by loss aversion, which is right. So, and then it's got this conclusion, while overall the neoclassical economists may see these survey results as indicating irrational behaviour, a behavioural economist would likely argue that people's responses are consistent with psychological biases that influence decision making. It's a fine answer to that question. Okay, let's see if it can do some maths. So let's say we've got a demand function here and a supply function. Find the equilibrium price and quantity, show you're working. Okay, so that's the correct answer. So it was able to solve that problem with a bit of algebra. Okay, let's see if we can get it to simulate at least some critical thinking. So let's give it this question. Use the equimarginal principle to explain why parents have a limited number of children. What criticisms could be made of this explanation? Let's see how it goes. Okay, so it just gave a correct answer to the first part of the question. Now it's going on to criticisms. All right, so that's not bad. You could say, well, that's not sufficient. You should really have a more detailed explanation. So provide a more detailed account of the criticisms. Okay, so it's done that pretty well. You can say, well, I don't like how it's in point form, so rewrite your answer paragraphs rather than in point form. Now, you can certainly say that at some points in there, technically, you could argue that you could quibble over them, such as it doesn't take into account cultural and societal factors that influence the number of children they will have, right? You could argue that's not necessarily true, but that's not the point. The point is that you can see that if a student were to submit this as an answer to an exam question, there's no doubt that this is a good answer, even if it's debatable. Let's try something else. Let's try a different kind of argumentative kind of question. Some economists argue that unions raise prices and cause unemployment by bargaining for higher wages than would otherwise be the case. Other economists argue that this is not true. Who's right and why? So it's giving on the one hand, on the other hand. Okay, so that's a reasonably good short answer question. What if we try to make it specific to Australia? So given the above answer about unions, which position is more likely to be correct in a developed economy like that? All right, so it's given at least nominally referring to Australia here. It says researchers suggested that unions in developed economies have a different effect on wages and employment than less developed. Okay, so researchers suggested. Well, that's a bit vague. Let's see if we can get it to elaborate on that a little bit. All right, it doesn't seem to be giving, well, what are these studies? Oh, so it's saying, look at David Card, Friedman, Katz. Okay. So it's at least giving me some suggestions. All right, and some journals that I should look in. Well, thanks for that.